She'll start when?
Carson, how you feeling? We good? Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, welcome, welcome. Thank you all for being here on a Monday at 5 o'clock. I officially open up the City Council Special Council meeting for Monday, August the 10th. Again, nice to have everyone here tonight. First off, we have our call to order check. Second, we have ordinances and resolutions for second reading, and that is on me. I make a motion to approve ordinance 01126 for the Travelers Rest Homeowners Tax Relief and Critical Project Sales Tax Referendum. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second from Grant. I'll give a brief description and then we can open it up for discussion. This ordinance would place a referendum on the November 3rd ballot asking Travelers Rest voters whether to approve a 1% municipal sales tax. If approved, the tax would be used to provide property tax relief for owner-occupied homes and fund designated critical infrastructure and public improvement projects with annual public reporting on revenue, spending, and tax relief. So with that, I will open it up for discussion. We had our meeting last week. Shannon and staff appreciate that presentation and the map and all the hard work. Very much appreciate that. And so again, we'll open it up for council for questions. And again, this is second reading.
I'm just going to make a statement more than anything else. I just want everyone to know, those that are listening, those that are here, that council is not passing this tax. That is not what is happening. We are simply passing the question of whether there should be a tax onto the voters to be placed on the November ballot so that the voters of Travelers Rest and only Travelers Rest can vote on this as to whether they want this done so that we may do the projects that were presented and are presented in front of us, and only those projects if this tax is actually passed.
Thank you, Grant. Anyone else?
I know that Lisa asked some questions during the presentation last week about the splash pad and like operation costs and if we should move that to tier 2.
I think we have a couple amendments that you're planning on doing, and
Yeah.
that's one of them.
Did we want to talk about operating expense? Do we have any guesses on splash pad or anything like that, or is that something we're just going to work on?
I think the question was
Discussion.
more, could it be reverse ordered on the
Oh, okay.
tiers?
Well, before we reverse order, we want to know the operation cost to see if everybody agreed with reverse ordering it or not.
We need to make the amendments and then have discussion about it.
Typically, yes.
Okay. Lisa, give us a little heads up for your question and the purpose of the amendment before you make your motion.
So the reason for my amendment is to move, when I make the amendment, is to move the skate park and the Gateway Stadium seating to tier 1 and to move the splash pad into tier 2. And I guess the original question that I had the week before was how much, I guess, public survey, how much was there a difference between the skate park and the splash pad?
Great.
Or was the question that I had last week.
All right, thank you for that. Now will you make the motion? Sorry, I was just making sure we had, like, it didn't go
First.
cold. Oh, I make the motion first? Okay. I make a motion to amend the order of the tiered projects so as to move splash pad to tier 2 and move the skate park and Gateway Stadium seating to tier 1 in the Exhibit A project list. This change will also amend the project total for tier 1 to $7,105,106.05, and the project total for tier 2, $8,720,893.95. Lisa, you want to second me?
Second, I thought there was another amendment.
Oh, okay, great. All right, so we have that amendment. So let's stick with the splash pad for a minute here for a second. So again, like Lisa mentioned, we're just moving from tiers, just to make sure from a priority standpoint that we have that set in stone. Is that correct, Lisa?
Yes.
Right.
And so the reason for my request to move the skate park and the stadium seating from tier 2 to tier 1 was for the fact that we already kind of have a conceptual drawing for the skate park, as is the fact that the skate park can serve multiple age ranges. And then also the splash pad, there's more cost to maintaining upkeep of that versus the skate park. So it would give us time to do a better conceptual drawing of the splash pad, and also to, you know, just make sure that we have the tax base in support of a splash pad, to be able to fund the maintenance and upkeep of that as well. And it's not that we will not have a splash pad, it's just order of priority.
I like the focus on Gateway Park too. I think we had talked about the high school and Travelers Rest, you know, students having a place to go over, and the skate park has been on our bucket list for quite a while. So this feels like a, I don't know, a more manageable bite of the skate park chunk too. What we were kind of thinking originally, that was a big project. So this feels manageable. Yeah, great. Any further discussion regarding the amendment moving the splash pad tiers?
I do. I still want to know, with this park survey, what do the citizens want more? The splash pad or the bike park? I mean, the skate park?
Councilmember Chris, I apologize, but I missed that in the last meeting, writing that note down, so I do not have that survey order in front of me. We could pull the results of the survey, but I apologize, I don't have that
Okay.
right now.
Thank you. And then last time we asked specifically what would be the cost of operations for a splash pad, and then you did share it's so many variables, but is there any type of number that we could think about, or like just some kind of ballpark figure?
I do not have that ballpark figure for you.
I did research a little bit about skate parks and splash pads, and I noticed that the several, like Clemson, and there's another municipality that were doing splash pads and skate parks. The skate park was done first before the splash pad. I don't know necessarily if that was just ease financially and all that as well, or I was curious. If
There's some
anybody-
basic variables that are easy to talk about. Concrete work, for instance, with skate parks. That kind of work tends to last for a long period of time. You're not, once it's designed and once it's poured in place, you know, there's cracks and things that you fix in that nature, but there's no basic operations. There's no mechanisms. There's no pumps and things of that nature. That's really where you get into your maintenance with the splash pads, is that you have to get into that DHEC regulated water circulation. You have pumps, you have lots of electrical and pieces and parts that have to be maintained, and they do break over time, and we hear verbally that they break quite often, but it's still an amenity that, you know, is very fun in its utilization, and the children like it and families like it. So those are the kind of the easy things to speak to, and I apologize that we do not have that data in front of us.
So just for clarity, just changing it, more than likely, we will still have a splash pad, which means we still will have to look at all these concerns. It could just defer it for a few years, potentially?
Councilmember Chris, yes, I believe that the amendment, as I understood, was simply to reverse order on the tiers. And then the tiers are just a prioritization as the money comes in. Remember, we're anticipating, you know, just shy of $2 million a year in the first year, kind of coming in, 1.6 being able to go towards the projects. Staff would bring to council on an annual basis a capital improvement plan, as we always do, showing the revenues that are projected and the expenditures for the specific items that would be placed in that list, and go through the reasonings, as we always do with you in a budget cycle anyway. According to the ordinance, after 70% of the contracts of Tier 1 are let, funding for designing and moving into Tier 2 can begin flowing as well. We do believe that we've, you know, very conservatively estimated the revenues to come in here. So, you know, we would anticipate that, you know, we would get into these projects at a relatively quick order. But since we're not bonding, that's really where the tiers become really important, is that we say we're going to do these as the revenues come in.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear with council, we're still going to have these concerns on a splash pad. It just defers when we're going to talk about it, but we still have to talk about it. So I just want to bring that
And
up.
since it's sales tax related, that changes. If there's a recession, at least we know we've got a skate park as a priority that has less maintenance, and it's like, well, can we
Less
do the
cost.
splash? Yeah, and less cost, yeah, I like that. Feels like a conservative move, I like that.
And we'll give time to develop the splash
Yeah,
pad
We don't have a rendering for that or anything, but everybody wants a splash pad. We understand that, yeah.
And can you please remind me, the order that these projects are listed in the tiers is not necessarily the order?
Councilmember James, that is correct. Within the tiers, we will bring you annual plans to complete the projects based on the funding that comes in,
And whatever's ready to go.
in whatever order makes sense, based on, being shovel-ready at that moment.
And council approves that.
And council approves that. Council has to approve every expenditure, receipt of revenue and expenditure. That's what you do in your budget cycle.
Any further discussion, excuse me,
On-
discuss, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
on the survey, when we did the park survey, that survey was designed before this whole project, correct?
Councilmember Campbell, that is correct.
So there was no discussion or matrix or saying how much this needed to be done or any kind of thing that we're discussing now. This was more of a emotional kind of thing for people that were coming in. Do you want a splash pad or do you want off-street parking? Splash pad's going to win every time. That's the kind of survey it was, wasn't it? It wasn't really a technical survey.
Councilmember Campbell, I would argue that it was a technical survey, but it was without the context of other pieces that come into this particular opportunity in front of the city. So, yes, it was structured such that it prioritized recreational amenities, but it did not compete in priority to other infrastructure needs such as parking, roads infrastructure, things of that nature. So I would believe that's a correct assessment, that if you were looking for an actual prioritization of these projects, the park survey would not provide that. And probably the way the question really fairly reads in the park survey is what is of interest to you, and maybe not necessarily in prioritization order, but you would get a numerical response to that.
question, John.
I have a question regarding the items on this list. So outside of this scenario, for example, if for some reason there was a grant or some kind of money coming in specifically for a splash pad, just because it's on this list doesn't mean, no, we can't do that. It could still be pursued otherwise, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion regarding the amendment?
I just wanted to clarify, because I've had some questions, and this might be more towards Jay. The pond, if we can talk about the details, that it's not just for aesthetics, but also infrastructure, can we kind of review
Harry, do you
that?
mind if we move this?
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
I can check it off my
Yeah, yeah.
list before we get Harry with
Plan B.
amendments? Yeah, but Jay, if you want to come on up and we can discuss it now. Any further discussion around the amendment and the splash pad moving of the tiers? Okay, all in favor? Okay, that motion carries. Thank you, unanimous. Okay, and then,
I voted
It was
no.
not unanimous.
oh, I'm sorry, was it not? It was Shanice, was that
It
you?
was
Okay.
8-1.
Okay, 8-1. Thank you, Shanice. Okay, all right. And opening the floor back up for our ordinance with amendment. Go ahead, Jay. Pond?
Yes, so can you explain more the detail and the thinking of the pond, that what it is and what it's going to do, not just a pond?
When you say not just a pond, you're speaking as to just a recreation amenity?
Correct.
Okay. So the pond will serve two primary purposes. One primary purpose is that it will provide stormwater and erosion control for a sub-watershed that contains where we're sitting, the park adjacent, and also the land across the street between Old Buncombe Road and 25276. So that helps with economic development, the future development of that piece of property, because the property can go and be used for whatever it needs to become in time, rather than becoming the home of a bunch of little detention ponds. So all the stormwater would go through the one system. It would take the existing stormwater pond that's at the park offline and open up that space for future recreational uses. And then it would serve as a retention pond so that it becomes an amenity within the park at the lower side. So it would have the sidewalk around it that would be large enough so that you could walk around and enjoy the park and create some park-like settings around the park, so you could go have a picnic if you would like to have a picnic, or have passive recreation green spaces alongside. Does that answer kind of?
Yes. I've just,
This is not just about removing trees and sticking a pond in the middle of someplace. This has got function to it, and because it has function to it, we're also able to put a recreation aspect attached to this also. Would that not be correct?
That would be correct.
I have some folks that think that we're just going in and chopping down a whole bunch of trees and we're going to put in a sidewalk and we're just going to make it, and that's not what we're looking to do. This is not just an aesthetic. This is actually for this whole side of, this whole portion of town, this is a stormwater issue that has to do with more than just Travelers Rest, but with DHEC and with economic development within this side of town also.
That is correct.
I did have a question regarding one of the projects, but it really applies to all the projects. In the concept that people can see online, if what we're presenting is just a concept, when it comes time for these projects to be put into production, will we have an opportunity to tweak what the concept is, and how much so? And I want to just mention one project that I was concerned about, and that was the parking here at Trailblazer. That particular project looks to me just to be a parking lot and removal of the track, which I think is very popular for a lot of people. And so I was hoping within the project itself, can we be more flexible and think about keeping it as a multi-purpose field that could be used for parking for big events, but retain the walking track?
Speaking specifically to that project first, the answer is yes. What we could do, and in that project, looking at the cost, a surface like a grass paved too, doesn't have to be exactly that, but a surface that has grass that could be used as a multi-purpose, but also support vehicular traffic, then what you can do is use them to meet both, you get a both and rather than an either or. And you could also keep the existing track in place. As we move forward, then what we would determine in looking at those is that the total project cost that is being assigned within this ordinance can take on that change in the design. In other words, it can substantially handle it. The cost of asphalt and curbing is more costly than the grass paved 2 product or something that's similar to it. Therefore, the projected cost can handle that kind of design change. Now, when we speak to all 29 projects, and I think this is very important in the funding of them, the project and the costs will not change. We're deciding what the projects are, what the project costs are, but the implementation may change to the benefit of the community as well as any change in construction techniques. So anything that is beneficial to us that needs to be changed within the project, we can make those changes when the projects come online through the design process. As long as we stay within the project parameters, the cost, location, and what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that explanation.
But we could add to, like if we were, for $50,000 more, we could get X, Y, and Z. We could put additional money from general fund or whatever to a project. Or if we had a grant for
you could always
something
add
special.
additional
Okay.
funding from another source to those project costs.
That's
Yes.
correct.
And
Sorry, I
none of
interrupted.
these projects are actually design ready right now. Everything that we have at this point is pretty much conceptual, as in ideas of what we want to do, but we don't have anything that is designed and ready to go.
There is nothing that is shovel-ready. Shovel-ready is always defined as we have the permits and the design complete. You can go and you can start digging in the dirt. So we don't have anything that is at that level. And as we went through the design, and this is a very important part of it, all of our budgets include the cost for design and construction administration thereof. So as we began through on the design of these projects, we would take those ideas into consideration. And in this case, we would say, hey, listen, we lose the multi-use of the site. It would be more beneficial, since we don't need parking, for instance, on an everyday basis, that we could use it for two different. So we can make those kind of decisions in every project along the way. We're just bound to the project and the cost, and so then we can make those changes.
So for clarity, we couldn't say, we voted for a parking lot, but now we want to change it to a playground. We can't do that. It has to be for the
That's right.
what was voted for.
In that area, we would meet the parking needs that we're trying to do that. So, for instance, it could be that the track stays in place, the ball fields are in place, and we work parking around it. There could be some possible solution, but we would stay within the project constraints.
Thank you.
And part of the reason that we have as many projects as we do is it just so happens that because we did the park survey or the recreation survey, we had some of these ideas sitting there simply as ideas that we were, for lack of a better word, playing with and tinkering with. So we were able to come up to speed to get some real numbers together so that we could place the numbers with what we were looking at right now.
Yes. The master plan and the budget costs were very helpful in where we were to be able to get the projects to you to consider for this ordinance.
And I will say this, that speaks highly of this council and in what we are trying to do for the city of Travelers Rest, in looking ahead in what we're wanting to do to put ourselves in this position to be able to do this in a short turnaround and do it accurately.
I was gonna say, I had the same concern, but now since it says Trailblazer Drive parking, that kind of gives us the leeway, so it's not saying paving or anything like that. So that gives us the leeway for the future to be
That
able
would
to
be
utilize.
correct.
Okay, because
That'd be
I was
correct for
concerned.
any of the parking projects.
Okay.
It doesn't dictate the materials that are used, whether they're curbed or not curbed, or and allows us to use different construction techniques that are most beneficial to the city, and also design that would be most beneficial to the community.
So I was like, that would be sad to lose that.
You don't want to take anything away if we don't have to. Yeah, that's good. Any further discussion? I also, oh, go ahead, sir.
I'll say, one of the comments I've heard from a few others is, and Shannon or Jay, I'm not sure which one would address this, the reasoning why there aren't more roads paved on our priorities. Can you address that?
Councilwoman Mara, we did look at roads and road paving. Our understanding from meetings with council and a few citizens who talked with us was that the priority needs at this time, as we took on two large park systems, we're kind of getting the infrastructure in place to receive the people that we have here, to get the activation of those parks going. If you look at the projects, it's really sort of the backbone infrastructure of the parks when you're putting in the through roads through Gateway, additional parking spaces, and the sidewalk connectivity throughout the parks. These are heavy lifting infrastructure projects that then allow a few pieces to come back into the parks, but there are some road considerations in there. Additionally, Travelers Rest, unlike some of the other municipalities who are looking at a similar opportunity, just doesn't have as many roads in their inventory system as some of these other municipalities. And the roads that we have are mostly recently paved, recently constructed in the newer neighborhoods. It's not 100%, but on the large scale, most of these are newer neighborhoods than, for instance, Simpsonville when they're looking at their road inventory list. So it seemed like this was the direction, that folks were wanting to go.
Right, thank you.
Council can keep thinking of any additional questions. We need to do a little additional amendment for cleanup, but this one doesn't have change on it. Is there something, do I have one that has change?
We could show it to you.
Yeah. Maybe we swap it out. It literally change, like 40 cent or whatever. You want me to be that specific?
No, it's not going to have change.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, okay. All right, so I can read this as is. that good, Shannon? Okay, great, great. Just want to make sure. So again, this is a little bit of cleanup, just moving a little bit of money from one to the other to make sure it's right for November ballot. And so I make a motion to amend the referendum question to reflect the following totals. I'm going to say the number and then say the written amount, just to make sure I get that right. 3942000, 3,942,000 for connectors, trails, sidewalks. 2613500, $2,613,500 for public parking infrastructure. 4958500, $4,958,500 for public assembly infrastructure. 3062000 for $3,062,000 for critical roadway repairs, and then 1250000, $1,250,000 for drainage infrastructure. Again, Shannon, do you want to talk to that at all? It's just moving like, what, $1,000 from one to another, just to make sure we had it right? Okay.
It's a redisbursement of $1,500. It comes down to rounding errors when the original question was put into place.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion there? All in favor? Okay, that is for the amendment. Okay, going back to our original ordinance, project sales tax referendum, we have 2 amendments attached to this now. Any further discussion?
You may have mentioned this last week, but the tax will start being collected in May of 2027. When could we anticipate, starting the first project?
It's a great question, Councilmember Byers. So that first month will go, well, we were on with some other entities today to talk about implementation. And so what we are waiting to hear back is whether the Department of Revenue will be remitting to us on a quarterly basis or a monthly basis. We believe at this time it is at a quarterly basis. We believe that's how the counties are having theirs remitted. But basically that first month will be collected. And then that ends the year in which we can then submit to the county rebates, and then we will continue collecting forward. So I would imagine that, after we get a small amount amassed, we could begin with Project 1. We would look for you to create a timeline in the budget process going forward, which will take place, March, April, May. We would look to create a timeline for you of expectation for first projects to come through based on that. But we expect $1.6 million to come in within the first full annual cycle of it, and we'll plan forward from that.
Thank you.
Mayor Amdon, if I may, I believe one of those project totals might have been incorrect. Maybe the public assembly.
4958500.
You mind if I take a look at that sheet?
Yeah. Do the math, we want to get it right. Oh, sorry. Okay. For critical roadway. Okay, critical roadway, 3,062,000, 306,200 for critical roadway repairs.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, thank you. All right, any further discussion for the second reading ordinance with 2 amendments? First one, moving of tiers for splash pad, and the second one, reallocation.
By the way, the reason that we're going over these figures and that is so critical is because literally that's what's going to be on the voting ballot when this comes out. So that's why we are being so particular. This has to be reviewed and accepted by the state.
Okay, all in favor? Motion carries. Thank you for that. Unanimous. We appreciate it. All right, okay. Motion to adjourn for our City Council special council meeting for Monday, August 10th. Grant, second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, thank you very much. Now we will move into our regular committee meeting. Hold on one second, shuffle some papers. All right, I call to order the City of Travelers Rest Council Committee meeting for Monday, August the 10th. Appreciate again people for hanging out with us tonight. First up, we have our Public Works Committee Chair Lane.
I call to order the Public Works Committee. Present are myself, Grant Baumgartner, and Sherry Mira. Do I have a motion to approve the July 6, 2026 Public Works Committee minutes?
Motion to approve.
I will second that.
All in favor? Director Tate.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just a couple of things here that I kind of want to give an update on. The North Poinsett Highway project, the lane is scheduled to open back up this week. The one that's been closed was actually the southbound lane. The drives there and Peterson Street, all that's been completed. They're just waiting there for some, I think, some striping for the crews to move in and put some temporary striping on the roads there. So that should be opening up. We have a glass recycling event scheduled for September 12th from 9 to 12 or until the equipment's full over at Gateway Park. And we'll have that, will be posted on our social media. The Pinestone Crosswalk, actually they started installing that today. They're pouring concrete out there on the trail side tomorrow. So that'll be moving along fairly quickly. And then I know it's still warm outside, but we have already been in discussion with a contractor on our fall plants, and we'll be working with the garden clubs in the very near future to get that planned and get those planted.
Thank you, Director Tate. Does anyone on the committee have any questions?
Question on where are they with the diagonal crosswalk signaling? I know that there was a hiccup with all of that.
There was a hiccup with that, and I'm sorry I don't have a recent update on that, but I will follow up on that and get you an update on that.
Thank you.
Is the paint on the diagonal finished?
Yes.
Okay, it just seems very faint to me. It's not very bright.
Right. Yeah. It is finished product.
Does anyone else on committee have questions first before? Anyone else on council have any questions?
Yeah, Philip, remind me, what are we doing with the other crosswalk at the gazebo? Are we getting rid of that one?
That one is
Okay.
going out. They are actually, once they get this one poured tomorrow, Wednesday, they'll start demoing the one that's at the gazebo and the crosswalk. You'll have to come down to the Pinestone crossing to actually cross. DOT is scheduled to do the signage and the markings there in the road.
Okay,
So
this is
that'll
just me
happen pretty
being
quick.
nosy. I've never seen us remove a crosswalk. How do they remove it? They paint over it?
No, that part of it, they'll actually probably will paint over that.
Okay.
But they're gonna, the curbing and all that stuff, they'll
Like put it
just
back.
demo that, yes. Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
On North
We-
Point, oh, sorry. Go
Oh,
ahead.
well, I feel like people make their own crosswalks sometimes, and I know it's not that far from the Pinestone one, but with the Dicey sculpture being there, I feel like people are gonna cross
use that
there
one.
anyways. Is that a concern, or?
I haven't heard that conversation. Hopefully that, we'll be able to educate people to kind of come on down the trail and cross there where it's safe to do so.
Going back to Catherine's question, I don't love the diagonal color either. Do we have, I mean, I hate to ask because we've waited so long for that, but can we do anything to, I mean, it's like, wah, wah.
Mayor Amdon, it's a very timely question. Jay and I were just talking about this with a architecture firm today and reaching back out to DOT to see if we can add, and I believe Councilmember Mara brought this up, the potential to outline it, even though it's not intended, for ADA purposes, we can't ladder it green, white. If we could put edging on the outsides with some white paint potentially to have it stand up, so.
Could we put
Excuse me,
sparkles or glitter on?
I'm not sure about sparkles and glitter. We were asking a lot of DOT
Okay,
at that point.
sorry,
But we are reaching back out to them to see if we can't, kind of, since we're still working on the signalization additionally, we think that, this is timely to
Maybe reflective.
Yeah, something. Okay. I like that. Thank you for doing that.
Philip, I do have another question. The pedestrian sign that is on Poinsett, let me rephrase that. The pedestrian sign that was on Poinsett at Chicora, which is now no longer there, was that a DOT sign? Did they put that up?
They did put that up, and actually that sign has been reinstalled.
Is that our responsibility to have to continue to reinstall that? Because here we are, that project's not even completed yet, and somebody's already plowed over it.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. You're the one in the center of the
one in the
road
center-
there.
the one in the
That is
center
correct.
sign,
That
yes.
is a DOT install. We had the same issue on Main Street at the gazebo several years back. Those, when you put them in a lane of traffic like that, they're,
Don't last.
no, they will not last.
I don't know if it was even up a week.
Yeah,
It was pretty
and,
quick,
and,
yeah.
and I noticed, I'm sorry, I was thinking of the pedestrian sign on the roadside there. But that is the one in the center, and I can reach out to them and kind of get their opinion of that, if they're gonna replace it or not.
Please do, because that's gonna be a up
And it
down
will, but
thing.
that is a DOT sign and project, so.
Thank you, didn't know.
So North Poinsett, you said they were going to reopen both lanes. Will there be any future closings in the near future again, or is this where it's open up and it's gonna stay open?
They will be some temporary closings, when they come back to do the final, asphalt there and probably the striping on that. But this is, it should just only be temporary for those closures.
Temporary, like, how long is temporary?
That's, I'm gonna say probably a day to do the paving out there.
Not
is
like
what I
a
would
week or
predict.
2 weeks or anything like that?
No,
So, okay.
not that I'm aware of, but I will follow up and make sure that we get notification out to those businesses out there.
Any other questions?
Yeah, the landscaping where the new crosswalk is going in on Main Street, that'll be adjusted, so when you're crossing onto the trail, you can see in both directions to
Yes.
see if there's
Yes.
anybody coming, so you don't get plowed down. Okay,
All that stuff that's in the line of sight will be addressed.
okay, thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks, Philip.
Thank you.
Public Safety Committee Chair Byers.
I call to order the Public Safety Committee meeting for August 10th. Present are myself, Shanice Chris, Lisa Lane, Cheryl Garniero, and John Campbell. Do we have a motion to approve the July 6th Public Safety Committee minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Great, thank you. All right, Chief, let's hear any updates about the Police Department report.
Yes, thank you so much. I just want to first say thank you to council, all city staff, fire department, police department. National Night Out was great. Just want to say thank you to everybody for the support. Something very important coming up this month, August 19th and August 20th. We will have South Carolina State Assessors here at our department to hopefully finalize our accreditation process. They're checking our records now. They'll come in that day. We will wine and dine them, show them our facilities, our equipment, our people.
We will
what
not
we do.
bribe them.
We will not bribe
Correct.
them.
Not bribe
I want
them,
that
no.
on the record, okay.
No bribing there, no. We will take good care of them and treat them like we'd be good hosts to them. How about
We will
that?
take them to TR's finest.
Absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
great.
Thank you
Sorry.
for pointing that
Carry
out.
Carry on.
So we have them coming in on those 2 days, and we're looking forward to that. So hopefully, we will be receiving that by the end of the month. So we're looking really excited about that. So that's
Exciting.
been a long time coming.
Yeah, thank you both for your hard work on that and on National Night Out. It was really fun. It was great to see all of council there and staff, and everyone I talked to was having a really good time.
Great, great.
Yeah, thank you.
And then whatever's on the report, I can take any questions anybody has.
Does anybody on the committee have questions for Chief about the police report?
The only thing I noticed was the uptick, I guess, in activity over at the Walmart, and just trying to understand better what may be causing that, or how we can address that, so that that doesn't continue to increase.
So I'll look at that. It could be, variable factors. It could be school time going, getting ready to go back, people trying to acquire things they shouldn't, they need to pay for. But there are several variables that could come into play. I'll have that. I'll write that down and I'll get that. What I'll do is I'll just review those individually and find out what people are taking and what's going on there, so I can give you a better educated answer on that.
Thank you.
I just want to know, like, how many times was one of our finest police and or fire personnel dunked in the dunk tank on National Night Out?
How many
We were
times?
watching that, and there was a lot of dunking going on there. Just saying.
Do you feel bad for them?
No, I thought it was funny. But
So
thank
I
you
know-
all for going, whoever was in the dunk tank.
I know one of my officers, Clint Morgan, was in there and he enjoyed it. I don't know
Officer
did you have
Blake,
anybody
were you
there?
in it?
Was
Mac.
one- a fire, we had a fire,
job.
fire.
The
fire-
MC.
Yeah, I avoided that this time, so I was happy to avoid that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and much thanks, like I said, to all city staff. Everybody pitched in, every single, city hall side, fire, public works, everybody. It's a great event, so.
And does anybody else on the committee have questions for Chief? Anyone on council? All right, we'll see you back again in a few minutes.
Okay. Good evening.
Hello. Is there anything you'd like to highlight for us about the past month?
No, our call volume's normal, our training's about the same as it is every month now. We are fully staffed. We had a new guy start today. He comes to us, he's actually worked for us before, but he's got a lot of experience, so that adds some experience to us, to some of these young guys that we've got, so we're happy to have him back.
Thank you.
Questions on reports?
Does anybody on committee have questions for Chief?
This may be a question for the other chief, but on the part-time codes enforcement, do we have somebody hired in training? I think they have to train with the fire department too, don't they?
We have 3 applicants that have been turned in, applications, and the interviews are set for this week, I believe. Sergeant Lewis is heading up the interview panel for them. Okay.
Okay. Does anybody on council have questions for Chief McMakin? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Shannon, is there anything you'd like to highlight on the building department report or municipal court report?
Chair Bowers, I'll just note that on the building report, we are lower this month than we have been the rest of the year, only by a little bit, but we are kind of averaging, in that low 20s, and we were at $19,000 in fees collected this month. We did have a banner month the month before, that was when Leva paid their full for theirs. We do have a lot of residential construction upcoming, so.
Does anybody on the committee have questions for Shannon?
Were we expecting Leva to pay in full when we did the budget?
Well, we were expecting it to come in throughout the year,
Okay.
so yes. I mean, it didn't matter that they paid in full.
Yeah, but it
or
was
not.
it would have been in this budget year either way.
Yes, we
Okay.
did expect that they would come in there.
Anybody on council have questions?
Shannon, can we get an update on Pinestone construction, meaning there's obvious movement, the one on State Park Road, but the one on 25, do we have any updates on?
I might look to Jay and, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Chief Ford? Okay, before you get started on a presentation regarding flock cameras, I just want to confirm that this is for information only, that we cannot make any motions. Correct?
Councilmember Byers, you don't have an agenda item set up to make a motion at this point.
So this is just for information. We can ask questions, but we cannot vote on anything as a result. Okay. And before you start, I want to confirm if you are talking about flock specifically or license plate reader cameras as a whole.
As a whole.
Okay, great.
Both. Okay. So what are ALPRs? As you can see on the screen there, they are made to read license plates, compare them to a database, in a database such as NCIC, that's the National Crime Information Center, and DMV, and alert officers that a tag listed on NCIC or a DMV violation just past that camera, okay? We do not enforce moving violations, okay? State law, we cannot enforce moving violations. So any violation of a suspended tag, a stolen vehicle, those are not moving violations, okay? The type of license plates that are listed, again, stolen tags, vehicles, missing persons, Amber Alerts, wanted persons. Wanted persons would be something like somebody's wanted for, a murder, and they were last seen driving a certain car. So that's input into the NCIC system, National Crime Information System, nationwide for all police if they come in contact with that car. So if a license plate reader reads that tag and says, oh, that's what, someone's looking for that tag, okay, then it alerts us, and then we go and confirm it, okay? So cameras also alert license plates that officers can place on a hot list. So let's say, for example, we have someone tagging, I don't know, vandalizing the parks, and we capture a tag leaving the park. And we know that that car had to have something to do with that, so we can put it on a list for it to notify us if it hits in a certain area. So then we have to go, and then just because it notifies us, it doesn't tell us who the car belongs to. These license plate reader cameras do not give us that information. That comes from NCIC, that comes from the DMV. So just because it gives us that tag and the picture of that tag, we then go find out who it belongs to, okay? The license plate readers do not know who it belongs. It just takes a picture. That's all it does. All right. How do they get their information? So that's the National Crime Information Center, Department of Motor Vehicles, Hot List. Systems typically sync with NCIC and DMV once every 24 hours. So I'm going to give another example, okay? If the mayor's car was stolen from her residence and we entered the car into the system as stolen, okay? A license plate reader captures or takes a picture of that tag on Benton Road. It alerts us that, hey, there is a tag that was reported as stolen or car reported as stolen on Benton Road. We then have to go to that area and find it. We then have to call that tag into our database, here the police database through SLED, to confirm that that tag belonged to her car that was stolen and confirm it's still stolen, okay? It doesn't update by the minute. So every 24 hours, these are being updated, okay? So any picture that's taken of any tag, we still have to confirm it. We don't go just off of that. These tag readers do make mistakes, like an O and a Q look similar. So we have to confirm by calling the tag in to our dispatch and confirming that, okay? All right, how are they used? They alert an officer that a vehicle is on NCIC with a violation from the DMV or a hot list, like I talked about earlier. The officer must go and locate the vehicle in that area. After being located, we must verify the information, okay? Also, for investigations, searching tags or vehicle types or makes after a crime occurs to create leads or find a suspect, okay? If we're told that a robbery occurred and it was a blue Ford Explorer that left, but they didn't get a tag, we can actually go in and search blue Ford Explorer at that camera where the closest camera is and see if any went by. If two went by, we would see the pictures of the tags. That gives us leads. That does not tell us who committed the crime. That doesn't tell us who was in the car, okay? It's just a lead, and then we can go and do our research and see, well, this car belongs to John Smith, this one belongs to Jane Smith. So it doesn't tell us. We still have to determine who committed the crime, okay? So it's just a lead. And let me say this once again, too, so we understand. These license plate reader cameras take a picture of the tag number. There's no information. Flock does not get any information on the person. It does not say that is Brandy Amadon's car. It's just a tag, just reason. We have to call it in and figure out who it belongs to. Okay, so there's no personal information there. So what do we have here? So we have Flock, pole-mounted cameras. We have seven of those. We have Axon, which is a separate company. They have vehicle dash cameras and 2 pole-mounted cameras, okay? The vehicle dash cameras that in, how many of our vehicles is it, Sarge? 2 or 3? 2.
It's going to be about.
It's not activated, but in 2, though.
Sir?
Yeah. How many is it?
About 6.
Okay. So our dash cameras inside the cars, there's 2 cameras. One is recording everything that we do everywhere we go. when we turn our blue lights on. And that helps, that's for safety reasons and to protect the officer when they're engaged with the person in the car at a traffic stop, for instance. The other little camera just captures license plates as we drive around. Just captures them, and if there's something wrong with that tag that it captures, it lets us know. And then you have Motorola. We have two of those we have two dash cameras, and we have two standalone cameras. Now, we use the speed trailer. It's currently on Watson. So on Watson, you have one camera pointing both way, each way. So they do the exact same thing. License plate reader only. They take a snapshot, and that's it. There's no video. Okay? All right, what training do we have? So FLOC officers take the FLOC Training Academy. I have two separate certificates, I believe. Depending on what level you are, such as admin, we have to take more training. That's for the analytics part, the audit part, things like that, and the assignment of, who has access. Every officer has to take some type of training in using this, whether they're searching or receiving alerts. Okay, and every officer here takes that training. We have it on file. Axon is fairly new to the game of license plate readers. Axon has been around a long time as far as tasers and body cameras. That's the two things they're really known by. But they've jumped into the game trying to get involved. So Axon Fusus is their database. There's no specific training course right now on how to use that. So we actually talk to the officers on how to use that, and they're very similar. It's a searchable database just like FLOC is. They're very, very similar. In Motorola, training needed to be able to create hot lists, conduct searches, but not to receive alerts. So the receiving the alerts is kind of common for any officer that signs in. So in theory, if I'm in my patrol vehicle, I can have 3 different softwares pulled up on my computer and get alerts from each one. Okay, so if I get an alert from a Motorola camera that's over here on Watson, I have to drive to Watson, then see if I see that vehicle. And if that vehicle's there, then confirm the information. So depending on which system that we're using or which one that the officers has pulled up at the time is what they're receiving alerts on. All right, so how long is the information stored? FLOC, an officer can only search for the last 30 days. FLOC does not, or excuse me, does keep a tally on how many scans it's conducted, but our officers cannot access anything past 30 days. There are options to have scans stored longer, but we aren't paying for those tiers. The question came up today where Sergeant Lewis and I were discussing this. If Greenville County wanted to search if they kept their data longer, let's say they kept their data for a year, and they wanted to search our cameras for the past year, you can't search anything past 30 days. No agency that we share with can search anything more than 30 days. Ours is written over. Okay, so every day, it only keeps the last 30 days. Every day it goes away. Okay? The data captured on our cameras is stored in the AWS GovCloud and is not shared with non-law enforcement FLOC customers. So repo companies that are repossessing vehicles, we don't share that data with them. Okay? No agency can search our information longer than 30 days. We already went over that. So Motorola and Axon allow for searches up to a year. That's what they allow for. All 3 companies are CJIS, which is Criminal Justice Information Systems compliant. The standards for CJIS are determined and approved by the FBI. So they have determined that FLOC, Axon, and Motorola are not violating any type of confidentiality law rules by allowing them to take pictures of tags and just feed us the information. So essentially, when the picture of the tag is taken, it feeds it through a database at SLED or DMV and SLED, and says, that's a stolen vehicle, and it shoots it back, stolen vehicle. It does not tell who it belongs to. We have to determine that, okay? It just gives an alert, is all right? If it goes into SLED's database and nothing is wrong, and it say it's my tag and it's all clear, it goes in there, they say nothing's wrong with that tag, and then there's no alert. There's nothing to be done with that. Then if someone comes along and says, well, Chief Ford, his vehicle was seen leaving the area of a crime, you know, or it was a blue truck seen leaving the area of a crime. You can look on there and find my blue truck, but you've got to link me to that crime. So it's only taking that picture and giving it a lead. Remember that, okay? All right, searches conducted with these systems. All 3 systems require a case number and a reason to be entered for a search. In all 3 systems, TRPD is part of that systems network, so we can search any other agency's network that has agreed to share their network with us and vice versa. For example, Furman. Furman has flock cameras on campus. They have shared their data with us, we share with them. So if I search a tag, I can search it just in Travelers Rest, I can search it statewide, I can search it nationwide. The important part of being able to do this and share this information is if a major crime is committed, someone may flee the state and try to get as far away as possible. So if someone goes to Texas to flee a murder here, those cameras there may pick that tag up. So therefore, that gives us a lead on where that car or that suspect may be, okay? Benefits to the network. Stolen vehicle happened early on July 9th. The vehicle was placed on a hot list in Flock before it was entered onto NCIC and before Flock system synced with NCIC. So we put it on a hot list. We said, look for that vehicle, cameras. We told them to look for that vehicle. Because remember, NCIC only syncs every 24 hours, once every 24 hours. As a result, cameras picked it up in Hendersonville, alerted their officers. There was a brief pursuit, vehicles recovered, the suspect was apprehended in Henderson County before it even synced up and showed the vehicle as stolen in Flock system, okay? That happened in July. Okay, so misuse, let's talk about misuse. All 3 systems allow for audits to look for improper use. Flock automatically flags an abnormal search or pattern. Systems are treated as law enforcement sensitive, just like any other database that TRPD uses that isn't open to the public. So penalties for misuse can include officers' privilege to use the system being suspended, revoked, up to and including officers' employment being terminated. Depending on what reason it was misused, it can go all the way up to termination. We have no cases of misuse. We have reviewed it several times, and we continue to review it. And we have no cases of misuse. I looked at it the other day myself. One investigator has searched a tag, I think 16 times. The reason that he searched that 16 times because that's a known drug dealer in the area, and he's trying to find out where that person may be delivering drugs or buying drugs from. But there is an active case, and that's why he is searching it, and that is all well documented. So what doesn't TRPD use ALPRs for? Facial recognition, obtaining cell phone data. We do not enforce moving violations, and we do not have the ability to comprehensively track anyone through the cameras. We only know when a vehicle is scanned by the cameras. We do not know the vehicle's location before or after the tag is scanned. The photo we have to access is only for the rear of the vehicle. We cannot determine who is driving the vehicle from the pictures. We're only seeing the back of the vehicle. That's all. We don't see who's driving. We don't see how many people are in the car. If you're caught on Benton Road by one camera at 12:59, that's all we can definitively say. If you're caught on the other camera at 1 o'clock, maybe we can see that, oh, you probably drove from here to there. If you're caught on the other camera at 3 p.m., maybe you were at Walmart, maybe you were at Zaxby's, maybe you were at Chick-fil-A. We don't know. It does not track. There's a snapshot. There's no continuous video. And that is all I have right now. So will take any questions you may have.
We'll start with committee members. Does anybody have questions?
Do you get different alerts from different systems, from Flock versus Axon?
Yes, we get different alerts, but they're essentially the same. It just says alert, stolen vehicle, or alert, suspended tag, or alert. But they're very similar in how the alerts look.
And so, for the example that you mentioned, where that officer was trying to track someone, in the system, in that situation, obviously, there's a lot of queries happening. Do they have to put data into, when they're searching, into why they're doing that, or is it?
We require a case number, which leads us back to the reason. So let's say, for example, an officer was trying to misuse it and put a case number in that was a fake case number. When I go pull the case number and I see that you're tracking this person, but that has nothing to do, that's how we would determine the misuse from like an internal investigation. For example, some of these individuals that have gotten terminated from other agencies, we're searching 130 times. And it's a huge red flag when you're doing multiple searches without valid reasons, obviously. And if you try to put a valid reason in there, still 130, 150 times is a lot. I mean, we really don't have the time to do that with as many cases we're working, so it's a real red flag. And Flock especially has it set up in their audit to pick up on these red flags. And from my experience over the last 20 plus years, it will probably get better and better for them trying to catch up on more red flags. To get better and better on catching this, to try to weed out the misuse. Because that's what we want to do. We don't want to misuse it.
Yeah, so with regards to audits, it sounds like some of the software has that capability. And correct me if I'm wrong, there's some internal checks that are happening, and then is there any other audits that happen randomly or from other outside agencies to verify, or is it just internal and then the software?
So we're just doing internal and our software at this time. What we are doing, though, is we are looking at our policy. We always look at our policies to try to figure out how to update them and amend them and make them better. So we have reached out to other agencies. As other agencies have reached out to us, we're all trying to work together to better the process, to make it better, to make it more checks and balances, so to say, so we don't have these issues, and to make it very difficult for someone to misuse it.
I have a lot of questions.
Okay, sure.
How often are the internal audits done?
According to our policy now, it's once per year. We just do one per year unless something flags and notifies us that there's an issue. We are looking at that on making that more often. So that's something that we're looking at with our general orders and our policies right now to see how often we want to do that. For example, we review body camera footage every so often. I think it's monthly. We're required to review a certain number of body cameras, and we do that internally. So we could go to something like that. That's something that's in the works right now.
So you mentioned facial recognition. I thought that it was just taking pictures of the car and license plate. So where is facial recognition in this?
That's where the public perception is that these cameras they do facial recognition. They do not.
Okay.
They do not, no.
Okay, so I was thinking, sorry, I have a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How often is training repeated in the TR Police Department for the Flock cameras and Axiom and all the other?
So we only do it initially for
Okay.
the officers unless we see some type of remedial training that's needed. For example, if someone misused it in a way or did it incorrectly and it wasn't egregious, we may determine that they need to do remedial training on it. But unless the training's really easy, it's really easy to use, so we only do it once initially at this time.
How do we, I'm sorry, I have a few more. Just
No, you're fine, you're fine.
How,
Don't need to apologize.
No,
It's your
no.
job to ask questions.
how do we confirm that Flock is actually deleting that data versus us just not being able to access that data after 30 days?
We can actually go and search a vehicle that we know was caught on our camera, say, 32 days ago, and when you go and search, it's not there anymore. So we've actually checked that to see, and it's not there anymore.
How often is FLAC audited by CGIS standards to make sure that they are following the proper procedures and policies?
I do not know that, but I'll get the answer to that. You said how often are they audited?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And just two more questions.
Okay.
It just seems like a lot of officers are being now let go due to misuse of FLAC cameras. Is this just because it's in the news? Or is it all of a sudden people are more like auditing, police departments are auditing and finding it? Why are they, basically, were these flagged before? Has it been happening and we are just hearing about it in the news?
I believe it's a combination of both. I think the public eye on what's going on has brought the awareness close up, so agencies are looking deeper into it to make sure. I do not believe that the audits were frequent. I believe that this attention that's brought has made police departments look into it deeper to make sure that they're doing the right thing and auditing, correctly. So I believe that because of the public light on this, it's causing departments to do it more.
My final question, so what if I'm one of the blue Ford Explorers that you saw leaving? You said like possibly a blue Ford Explorer committed a crime, somebody in a blue Ford Explorer committed a crime, and there are two caught on camera. How do you go about to make sure that whether it's me or the other Ford Explorer, like how does that work with the law with search and seizures, all that kind of
So that would be
situation?
that's how we do most investigations. So then what would happen is, let's say that it's your Explorer and my Explorer that went by. So investigators would
I'm
make...
not the criminal.
Well, an Explorer or an investigator would then find out, run your tag and say, okay, it belongs to Lisa. So then they would probably call you or come knock on your door and say, can we talk? I need to talk to you about something. We seen your vehicle leaving this area at this time. Why were you in that area? We're investigating this. Why were you in that area? And then you may say, well, I went to Walmart to buy some, groceries. And they ask a few more questions, and then, if they determine at that point that they don't have any probable cause that you're involved in a crime, then they say, thank you, have a nice day, and then they go. If they don't believe you and think that you're not telling the truth, they would have to investigate further to then determine if you were involved and how you're involved. So that's all part of the investigation.
But that would be like, even if a witness saw two blue Ford Explorers leaving Walmart, you would do the same exact scenario versus with the FLAC.
Exactly. If that witness saw your tag and my tag and gave both tags to the police, we would do the same exact investigation. So basically, the camera just helped us as a tool to give us a possible lead. Not that someone did, maybe neither one of the vehicles did it, but it gave us some leads to check it out that we wouldn't have otherwise.
Okay. Thank you.
I just have one thing to clarify on the NCIC, CGIS, and DMV. They do external audits as well, correct? And those could lead back to
Yes, especially DMV. DMV is very particular. When we're training people how to use the DMV access and run things in DMV, they have certain rules and acknowledgments. You don't run yourself for a test. You don't do certain things. And yes, they do external audits, yes.
So would it be safe to say that two of the largest misconceptions are that, one, these cameras are doing facial recognition on people.
Yes.
And then the second one would be is that we're taking pictures of cameras to get them from moving violations.
Yes, those two are absolutely false. Absolutely false.
Denise, did you have any questions? Okay, does anybody on council have questions for Chief?
I do. I have a few.
Okay.
I was wondering what other databases besides NCIS and DMV are we comparing license plates to?
That is it.
That
The
is it.
DMV and NCIC is it. And we do that if we call without these cameras. You take them out of the equation and we're driving and we see you with a headlight out, we call your tag in, it's going through the same system.
Okay. Regarding the hot list, if you see a vehicle or somebody sees a vehicle and it's added to a hot list, does it get assigned a case number at that point?
Yes.
And who can assign a case number?
Typically, that would be, like the stolen vehicle, the case number is assigned upon dispatch. And so I actually added that vehicle on the hot list. So I entered the case number and the reason for it, as being a stolen vehicle.
I think
So
I know what you're asking. So-
Any officer could create
Yeah.
a case number?
Yeah, well, yes, but we have to, so I couldn't put your vehicle on a hot list without putting a case number that links back to our system, our records management system.
Okay. You said any law enforcement customer of Flock can search our data. Is that right?
If we give them permission to, yes,
Are we giving permission to other law enforcement?
yes.
Is that regional? Is it national? Is it anybody?
We've given them, there's hundreds all over the country we've given access to. No federal agencies.
No federal.
No federal agencies have requested it, and if they did, we would have to give them permission, or we won't have to, we would have to approve that. But right now, we don't have any federal agencies that have requested.
Okay. For the Motorola that has cameras in both directions, is it feasible it could catch the front of a vehicle through the windshield?
No, they're trained to dial in on the license plate is what they're trained. There's specific lenses in these cameras.
Okay.
Am I right, Sarge?
Yeah, even our Axon one that captures the intersection over here, it only gives me a picture on something if it's numbers, alphanumeric.
Okay.
So, but yeah, and then it zooms in on that. And I can't, usually with most windshields nowadays, I couldn't see inside of it with the glare.
Now, I would say, let me say this, it's not impossible that if a car has a tag on the front that has, so say another state that where it has tags on both ends, it's not impossible that it may bring that up, but it would focus low.
Okay.
on the tag.
When are our contracts up for the 3 vendors?
So the Motorola contract is year to year. So, and I think it's April to April. The Flock contract is a 2-year contract that is up next, I think the end of next, I think it's 2027, June 2027, I think it ends.
Okay.
And then it would go year to year, I believe, if we chose to. Axon is a 5-year contract. Those cameras they gave us for free. They're not charging us anything for those because they're trying to get us to go to them and go away from the competitors. So we have a contract with them, just a 5-year, but they're free cameras.
Do you have plans to add more cameras?
I do not. I don't have any plans to add any more. We've got plenty in the city. I don't need any more to know what. And the only way we would add more is if we had a rash of crime committed in a certain area and we weren't getting any reads, and I might want to put a camera there. But at this point, I have the 2 Motorola. I can move those over there on the speed trailer or put them anywhere. So no, I don't have any need for any more right now.
Okay. And my final question is, you said all officers are trained on Flock.
Yes.
Does that include dispatch or any other admin or non-officers?
So dispatch, they are trained because they receive the alerts in there too. But yes, but our records clerk is not. I don't believe our records clerk is. She don't have anything to do with that.
He doesn't have access to my knowledge.
Yeah, she doesn't have access to it. We don't have an account set up for her.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
For clarity, Flock does their own audits, correct? So like with the 130 hits, Flock would notify you of that?
So they basically, it's like an automatic audit they're doing in there and keeping
Right.
track of the data, the analytics. And then, did we find out if they actually alert us?
No, they don't. I actually have to log in and look at it.
Okay, so we would log in and look at it at that point and see if something looked out of the ordinary. But it's basically providing all the data for us to see if something looks strange.
Okay, because that was kind of going to Lisa's question. In one of our neighboring municipalities, Flock was able to identify the misuse of the officers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But you guys have to manually go in and double check it.
Which is why we're looking at the general orders again and trying to, like we do all of our general orders. I have about 180 general orders. So we look at those every year, trying to figure out how we can improve them. That's what accreditation does for us too, is how can we improve them? How can we get the best the best general order out there to protect ourselves liability-wise and to do things proper and professional.
Yeah,
So
that was
that's
my
why we're-
other question on accreditation. I'm assuming they have a best practice that
Yes.
they recommend as well.
And actually, that conversation is going around an email right now with all the accredited agencies. What do you have? What do you use? And look at what we're using. Let's share. Let's do the best. So that's what we're doing right now.
Thank you, Chief.
So are the dispatchers sworn officers now? Are they sworn?
They are not sworn, but they are NCIC certified with a 40-hour training class, which gives them access to that data.
If they were to use the system, they could be charged as with misconduct in office?
Absolutely.
Felony?
Absolutely. Felony carries up to 10 years. Absolutely.
Okay. Do we have a policy or general order on adding something to the hot list? Like what applies to be something that can be added?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Typically, no.
I'll have to check that, and that could go again, we can amend the general order and add something in there. We do have to add the case number. They do have to have a valid case number to add it to the, so let's say, for example, I want to see where Kelly's been. If I would put a case number in, and then that case number has to match our records management. If it doesn't, that would be misuse.
You mentioned, the required training for Flock, no specific training for Axon, and training for hot list and searches for Motorola. Is this training like technical, like click here, go to this field, do this, or does it include some sort of like ethical use training?
So it's going to be online, click here, click there. The ethical misuse falls under our code of ethics that we have all officers and non-sworn sign when they arrive here. And actually, we just did our yearly training on ethics. I taught it last week on Tuesday and Thursday, so we have ethical issues taught every year as part of our in-service training. And that's required by the accreditation too, so we have been doing that for several years.
So more about the misuse. It sounds like Motorola and Axon do not have automatic flags.
And we're checking on Motorola. Motorola is a very difficult software to use. They're not easy to work with. We're trying to find out more about that. Axon is new to the game, as I said earlier, so I anticipate what they will do is be adding more stuff. They'll probably add some videos for training and things like that. They're just new to this realm right now. So we actually have, what's that training? Fuchsias training, right? Yeah, so I actually received an email to do that Fuchsias training. We've just had those Axon cameras maybe a month or so, 2 months maybe.
And if someone misuses the system, you mentioned, investigation, potential termination. Does their misuse automatically become like a criminal offense if it's something like stalking or something like that?
If it's stalking, it would, yes. It depends on what they were misusing it for, and depends on a lot of factors. One would be, is there a victim involved? Does the victim want to pursue charges? Is the victim cooperative? What the reasons were for misuse. So there's a lot of factors in that. We would then turn that over to SLED to have them investigate any criminal aspect of that, which we've done before here with other issues, not dealing with cameras. But if there's a potential criminal issue, we have another agency do that investigation, and we step back and only handle the internal part of the investigation.
And you mentioned SLED, but SLED doesn't have the ability to store this data.
We are waiting on, we called them today. We have not gotten a return call. We're waiting on them to get back with us. We do not believe they're storing that data, no.
Do we have any knowledge of whether or not any of that data, those photos that are sent back and forth, if that is encrypted and within a secure network?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
it is.
Yes.
All right.
And the AWS Gov Cloud is some of the strictest, I guess, cloud storage that you can have. It's been approved by the federal government to be able to protect it and encrypt it, yes.
Okay.
Are we aware of the flock cameras that are being used by county that, on roads that come through Travelers Rest, And also by private entities that may have them on their, do we know where all those are?
I know that we have 2 over at an apartment complex in town that they're using using those. I am aware of several of counties. I don't know if I'm, off the top of my head, I don't know where they're all at, but they are sharing with us. So yes, we are aware of those cameras.
Do we, as a city, and this may be a question for Shannon, have any governance on placing flock cameras? If a private entity places one, do we dictate where they can put them if it's in the right-of-way? Does it have to be on their property? Do we have rules?
So yes, so it has to be on their property. It cannot be in the DOT right of way at this time. All the cameras that I have up are not in the DOT right of way. They are on private property, and I have signed agreements by those owners of those private property allowing us to put them there.
So I think I'm also asking about private businesses like the apartment complex. If they chose to do it, do we have some rules for them to follow?
No, because they can put a camera up on their property, whatever they want to do. as
Well,
far as I know.
Councilmember James, just to clarify, they would have the same restrictions in right-of-ways, so it would have to be on private property.
Thank you.
Ford, as far as transparency,
Mhm.
can we put our policy online, or how would you suggest in order for us to be transparent on what we're using, or just procedure on how we're doing this?
So yes, we can absolutely do that. We're actually in the process with the accreditation of being able to post all of our general orders online if we choose to, and let all of them, be transparent with all of our general orders. Or we can do whatever we want to do with that. There's also a transparency portal that Flock does, which is kind of like an analytical data model that we can actually, we've talked already about putting a link on our city website, and at any point in time, any citizen can go and look and see how many scans, where the cameras are at, those type of things. We're not, we share that, at any time. The question that's come up is making sure we keep up with it. Who's going to take on that responsibility to keep up with that and update it? So, but we're talking through that now.
Is there a system that you would prefer, and I'm not saying give names now,
Mhm.
but is there a system that would do that automatically that wouldn't put pressure on staff to do that?
I don't know of one.
It would have to be manually done through
So Councilmember
us?
Ramirez, it's a complicated question because I think we can reflect from Flock, but if there was a delay in that information coming forward, anything that we create on our webpage has to be created and has to be regularly audited. So every layer that you build into the webpage does have a risk that it fails to get updated at some point. And then you talk about human hours to be auditing that. I'll give you an example. We were looking at this and found on our webpage that we still had a reference to Administrator Vinson. Obviously, it's been a while. So we have to go through all those pages click for click. So that's just the risk, is that we don't want to have data out there that gets outdated and we don't catch it. And that creates a confusion in the public.
Be
So
accurate.
correct. It's not a problem to reflect it. We're happy to do it. It's just anything we build does have to be maintained.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Chief Ford? All right, thank you very much. We
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Do we have a motion to adjourn the Public Safety Committee meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Planning and Development Committee, Chair James.
Okay, call to order the Planning and Development Committee. Those present are myself, John Campbell, Kelly Byers, Shanice Chris, and Grant Baumgartner. Motion to approve the July 6, 2026 Planning and Development Committee minutes. Do I hear
Motion
a
to
second?
approve.
Second.
All in favor? Director Martin, do you have some updates for us?
Yeah, very quick updates, and there's not a lot here. You'll notice a couple things are missing from there. So White Hawk Meadows Phase 1A is off. They're in the middle of their final paving, and so that'll comes off the list, and they're kind of open for business, so to speak. The work has started down at Hemlock Park, you'll notice, for the apartment side, and they are moving through the process, getting to construction as quickly as possible. There was a question about Pine Stone. The updates, they are still resolving with SCDOT. They have resolved it on the site that is out by 25, but it was kind of riding at the same time with the access off of South End Circle that goes into the warehouse portions. As to their exact dates of completion and that sort of thing, I will make a note to follow up with them and get with them as to when they'll be completing those and as to when construction, or we can anticipate construction on the one out by 25. On Dicey Langston Heritage Garden, the Phase 1, the masonry is complete, and now irrigation is going in, and we'll see landscaping going pretty quickly, so that is coming to completion really quickly. And then I'll remind you, September 17th will be the dedication of the Charters of Freedom.
Any questions from committee? Any questions from council?
I have a question regarding the Pine Stone. I've had a couple people ask about the speed hump
Yes.
and what the status was of that.
The speed hump is on its way. We're working through a couple of the processes of whether we had to have somebody actually design it or if we could just contract directly and have it installed. It's more economically feasible to have it contracted and installed. We just wanted to take a look at the liability of doing so. In this case, the design thereof cost more than the installation thereof. And so you could see our issue where we wanted to make sure that we use the city money wisely. In this case, there's only one location for the speed hump to go, and we felt comfortable with the contract. So now what we're waiting for is just timing. And as we're finding out with other projects, contractor timing is always fun, and making sure that but it's on its way.
Thank you.
When is the fencing being removed around Dicey Langston? Is that September 17th, or will that be before
It'll
then?
be before September 17th. Then we will probably place a couple cones that close off a portion of the walk in front of the Charters of Freedom, because the installation of the plaques, the installation of the charters themselves, and the installation of the pavers would still need to go in the sidewalk. So there's a big empty rectangle, and we don't want to make sure that nobody falls in that.
Thanks.
All right, with no further questions, next on our agenda, Aubrey Hume, one of our summer interns from the Shy Center, will now give us a presentation about Travelers Rest walkability and a pedestrian safety study.
Yes, first things first, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. I have had a lovely summer here, and everyone has been so welcoming and so kind and encouraging, and I couldn't ask for more. So in a kind of nerdy way, the first thing that I did whenever I found out that I had this position offered to me, I went and I looked at the master plan online, and I was like, let me read about this. And I had known that Travelers Rest had so much of a recreational identity and so much backing behind the Swamp Rabbit Trail and how that plays into development and the culture of this area. But something that seemed kind of important to me was these core values that we have, and how do we communicate them in a way that actually makes sense to people? What does smart growth look like? How do we put numbers behind things like this, and how do we visualize that? So I guess the first thing is just acknowledging the recreational identity. You know, in our logo, we have a little hiker, and we are in this perfect little valley of the mountains, rivers, and lakes near Travelers Rest. And there's a motif of bikers, hikers, runners everywhere. It's in our stores, it's in little shopping centers and the rabbits and everything. And so being able to visualize something about that would be really nice to see. And so I started looking deeper into how we are perceived at the grant level and how the federal government sees our walkability as Travelers Rest. So Travelers Rest ranks below average on walkability indexes that are done by the EPA. The reason for that primarily is shared among a lot of small towns. And it's because the way that they score it is through census tracts. And so density plays a huge role, and if you don't have a very dense population, then you are not going to have a high walkability score, and so it doesn't take into account much of the actual physical infrastructure. It's more swayed by the way that land carries more than it should in this scoring methodology. So I started going through and I hand digitized all of the sidewalks in Travelers Rest. And whenever you take a close look at it, it might be hard to see, I know for some of the people visiting, but if you take a close look at it, you can see the gray are all of the existing roads, and then all of the green is pedestrian infrastructure, so sidewalks, the Swamp Rabbit Trail. If you go back, and you can see the darker colors are the more walkable. And you can see Furman down at the bottom has a lot going on, and that's why it is scored more walkable. It kind of brings Travelers Rest on average way up. But if you look at Travelers Rest without Furman, we have a lot of subdivisions that have sidewalks, but they're not connected to the greater scheme of all the sidewalks. And I've highlighted those in red. And down at the bottom by Northcliffe, there is a connection, but I highlighted it because that is the only sidewalk you can properly exit Northcliffe through. You can't, down over by Trailblazer where it connects over here, we don't have a crosswalk. We don't have any kind of sidewalk implemented. And also the adjacent exit and entrance, you should not be exiting or entering out of, because when you look into it, that road is very, very fast. And if a car were to hit a pedestrian on that road, the fatality risk is very high because of the mile per hour on the road. I have grown up in the South, and as being someone from the South, I know that people are going to use roads as a way to move on. Even if it doesn't have a shoulder, they are going to walk on the side of the road. Behaviorally, completely knocking out any kind of just only limiting it to roads would be ignoring the way people behave. So I looked into existing, this is the pedestrian level of roads, pedestrian level of traffic stress in the top right corner. They score it only on shoulders. I know we don't have a lot of shoulders on our roads, so I went and developed it a little bit further by looking into fatality risk based on posted miles per hour. And I created my own pedestrian level of traffic stress. And the way that this works out, I know it might look a little confusing. I calculated it in a very specific way. So the way that speeding is, we don't have direct indicators as to what causes speeding. There's a lot of variables, but it can be condensed into like 3 major things. And that is the posted speed limit, which it's higher risk if you have a lower speed limit because people don't want to go slow. And then if it is a longer road, I have it placed at half a mile and over. People are more likely to speed. And if the road is straight, then people are more likely to speed as well. So I went through and I classified every road in Travelers Rest with a risk level. And you can see that about 30% of our roads, people shouldn't be walking on at all. That's not surprising. We have major arterial highways and big roads. The LTS1, all of the roads that are green, are considered safe for children. Children should feel safe on those roads. That is only 15% of our roads, and I guarantee all of the LTS2, which is only considered safe for adults, that does not all have sidewalks. So we're restricting our ability to move around the entire city by age primarily and functionality. And we're restricting the amount of people to be able to move around independently to being able to have a driver's license. And if someone is either too old and feels now uncomfortable to drive, or they are too young, they don't have the independence to flow around the city correctly. And then I primarily did this also, gave them a category because all of our residential streets are at 25 miles per hour. And 25 miles per hour, when you get into that range, the crash risk goes up and fatality risk is only 5%, but that's if you're actually going 25 miles per hour. I know people speed. And so in order to mitigate the speeding risk, I gave this, and if it ranked poorly, that means people were more likely to speed. And within the jump between 25 miles per hour and 30 miles per hour, the risk goes from 5% to 40% fatality risk of someone being hit. So I'm not even, this is a very liberal perspective and way of viewing these roads and their safety. I am giving them a lot more slack than I probably should. These roads are not safe, and I know that people are walking on them because I went and measured Williams Road, and whenever I was measuring it, people were in fact going and walking along it, and it is a curved road, it is a long road, it is a 35 mile per hour road. If someone gets hit on that road, it wouldn't be good. So this is our existing pedestrian network whenever you increase all of the roads and the sidewalks. I split it up so you could get a better view of what Furman does and what the city is doing outside of Furman. Again, all of the gray roads are not included within the network. And again, you just see a lot of isolated little clusters. Not everything is connected, not everything is part of this network. And I went and I actually simulated the ability to walk along the network, and you can see that places up in the north and eastern part of the city drop off of the network completely. This is based on the proximity to Main Street. So the more green it is, the closer you are to Main Street, and red further away. And again, you can just see that outside of Main Street, to the west and south, we have connection, but to the north and east, those people that live there, those residents, are not part of our sidewalk network. Whenever you put in the changes that would be introduced through the tax relief, you can see that up north, we now have Williams Road connected, which includes a few big neighborhoods. And it's hard to tell, but down in the bottom by Northcliffe, we now have that safe exit by the foothills and the Watson Road. We're bringing in people just off of Saddleback Cove. There's a lot of changes that would bring actual connection and hit those core values that we want to hit so bad. And this is a great way to actually see how we would be doing that. And so you might be wondering, well, this is great, but what's all the demand for sidewalks? South Carolina is not a safe place for pedestrians. Over the past 25 years, we've been in the top 10 of highest pedestrian fatality rates. We rank higher than California. We rank higher than New York. I don't know how we do it, but we do. To this day, in 2026, 96 pedestrians have lost their lives. That is just for this year, and that is at a faster rate than it was last year, so we keep going up on average. Between 2020 and 2024, 893 pedestrians were killed in South Carolina, so that's about one every other day. So it's a big goal for us to have more safety implemented for such a huge recreational population. We're able to acknowledge this in our identity, but then it's very hard to actually see the change, and I know it's very expensive. But walkability is great. It has a lot of positive externalities. It has protection, of course, but then it increases home values. From people who have sidewalks connected to their homes, their property value goes up. It improves people's health. It removes traffic congestion. I've heard complaints from Furman professors whenever I told them that I was getting this little internship opportunity. They were like, please fix Main Street. there's so much congestion. If we have more people walking, there will be less traffic, of course. And it gives people who aren't able to drive the ability to have independence in the city. Also, sidewalks are one of the least costly pieces of infrastructure that you can put in over time. I know that initially it is quite expensive, but year over year, you don't have to do much to do any kind of maintenance. It just kind of exists once you put it in. You might have to push back some weeds. And then studies have been done, and we know pedestrian forward spaces are better at sustaining small town business growth. And which connects to, I know a lot of people, we want to continue seeing Main Street grow, and we want to continue seeing those businesses prosper. And, you know, some people think it's really scary to see a big portion of land bought up by a big company like Walmart, and it's, oh boy, we're getting a new Walmart, and why are we not getting something owned by someone locally? And pedestrian spaces are much better at promoting that. So looking forward, the easy solution that everyone wants to jump to is, why don't we just lower speed limits? And the answer is that won't actually do much, because the roads are designed in a way that will make people feel comfortable going a higher speed. So what do we do about that? I know that it will take a lot of time and money, but the good news is we're already doing some things to improve that. So North Poinsett, I'm sure, has been a great remodeling, and people are going slower on that road. And then the residential tax relief, if voted on and it passes, then it would have some great projects that also increase our walkability. And yeah.
This is fantastic. I do have a question for you. How many miles did you walk?
I believe that day I walked about 2 miles total. Yeah, because I had to go back to my car. So not too bad.
I just want to say this is a very fair and thoughtful and important assessment of our walkability. And it also just shows us yet another reason why the tax relief and critical projects referendum is going to bring value to our citizens. So thank you so much for doing this. This is really important data for us, and the mapping is really important for us to be able to see the lack of connection that we have. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Aubrey, fantastic job. I was wondering, things like the Gold Line, is that included in part of the sidewalks, even though it's not on the road, it's a separate path?
Oh yes, it is
Okay.
included. I do have that in the pedestrian network. It kind of juts out and it's hard to see, but in this, oh my goodness.
But that probably made that neighborhood more connected.
Yes, it does. And you can see whenever you go to this area, it would have been red had the Gold Line not been there, because they only have one access route.
Thank you.
Aubrey, would you mind explaining the last slide to your thank you or question slide? What's kind of talk us through, sorry, the one with pictures. Talk us through the after. What is it doing there to make it?
So because this is reducing people's, there's like, you can't see straight through, you have to slow down, and it narrows the roadway. It's forcing people to be more aware of what's going on and forces everyone to kind of slow down. And even though you have the same option, same path, it's kind of like a road diet, and they move forward, and they're more conscious of their surroundings.
This is really smart. I haven't seen that before, so it was curious to me. I'd always heard about the reducing the miles per hour, because I think there was like a European push for 20 or 25 miles in all the streets. This might be a bad idea, Shannon, but I was thinking, you know how we have the facade grant? Maybe there's some way we could do some type of like sidewall grant or a match for some of these subdivisions. I mean, we can't hit them all forevermore, but I used to call them ghost sidewalks. You'd make this development and there would just be this like sidewalk, but maybe there's like a matching, or I don't know. I know with our CBG money that there's some restrictions on that, but just something to think about. Also, I thought it was going to be a hard sell explaining sidewalk connection as part of the residential tax relief. and the sales percent, but I think people really understand it. So having this data is great too, but I think people already value the walkability of Travelers Rest and want more of that, which is great.
Thank you for creating this. The illustrations are fantastic. And I do enjoy the fact that it's a very good illustration of how Highway 25 does seem to divide the city and the walkability, which could be useful in speaking to the DOT about making it more connective across the highway for both sides of town. So thank you for this. This is
I want
fantastic.
my
and
underground
appreciate it.
tunnel.
Or tunnel, yes.
Aubrey, I'd be interested to know, I find that the slide that you said about the deaths in South Carolina being higher than almost everybody else just does simply amaze me. I would be interested, did you happen to study where those deaths were? Are they more, I would think that maybe they may be more in the beach areas simply because of the numbers of vehicles and visitors in that type of areas, but I don't know that to be true. I didn't know if you looked into that.
So I did look into that, and actually the government reporting, the way that they do it, they do not break down fatalities, traffic fatalities by county any deeper than traffic fatalities by county. So I can tell you that Greenville County ranks fairly high in traffic fatalities, but I cannot tell you the manner of those fatalities. So it could just be all vehicular, crashes. So I couldn't tell you. None of that is publicly released. I will say this is kind of unrelated. We do have a partnership with Strava Metro, and so I was able to grab data from people who log their recreational workouts. People are using roads. I'm not allowed to publicly share it per Strava's agreement, but I will let you know people are using the roads that are marked as unsafe through this study, and they are using them frequently, daily, to go on their morning runs, to go on a bike ride, to go on a walk, to walk their dog. And so we have the demand for it, and people are using it, and they're familiar with it, but they don't have the infrastructure in place for it right now.
Some of what excites me also about the pond area, Jay, that we're talking about putting in is the walkability around that. I mean, how many people do all of us know people that will get in their car and intentionally drive all the way to Furman just to get out of their car, then walk around the lake once or twice, and they get back in their car and drive back up here? It just makes a whole lot of sense to me.
If I could make a job recommendation for you, I would love for you to come work at GPATS because we talk about this. I think you would be great there. So if you need a reference, I'm happy to make that. But we talk a lot about the fatalities of Greenville County, and it's kind of crazy. Maybe it's the rural piece, but yeah, it's very good. Thank you.
Thank you for doing this. That was great. I was curious about, so it looks like you have state, county, and city roads all included in this. Have you looked at the current situation of the safety of our current sidewalks that we have? Because I know Main Street, a lot of people can think that sidewalk is very unsafe.
So honestly, because of the time limit due to my internship, I didn't go that deep. I gave all of the sidewalks just a plain score of being safe on the assumption that they're sidewalks and hoping, because that would require a lot of going through and seeing what the buffer difference is, if there's a curb existing, all these kinds of things. And I just didn't really have the time or resources, but I would love to evolve further into that, honestly, and it's a good thing to look into.
And do you know, compared to other municipalities our size, and I know you were limited in time, what about walkability compared to other municipalities the size of TR? Where were you ranked? Because I know you said we rank worse. And
below average, I would say, again, I wouldn't say that the EPA's scoring is necessarily fair for small towns, just simply because of the methodology. They do it on census tract data, and again, that is a derivative of density. So all small towns are probably performing around a least desirable kind of level, and so I would put us at average for our municipality size.
Thank you.
But we're A students, so we're A students. We don't want to be average. We're A plus.
All right, any other questions? Any other questions from committee or council?
I don't know if this is part of this or not, but the speed, and this may have been where we should have done public safety, but like the speed limit on the Swamp Rabbit Trail with the sidewalks, like, I think a lot of people don't want to walk on the Swamp Rabbit Trail because of the fear of the high speed of cyclists on that. Is that something that, not that you can answer, but maybe Administrator Herman can, the possibility of decreasing the speed limit, or having the county decrease the speed limit inside the actual city limits of Travelers Rest?
I'll learn this from Attorney Child, so I'll pick it up. Councilmember Lane, it's a great question. The Swamp Rabbit is a county amenity, so of course that is governed by them. And I know that they do employ a lot of science behind that data, but happy to ask that question of Ty Hauk. I'm sure he could give us a really clear definition of that. It is multimodal, which is different from a pedestrian sidewalk. So the multimodal would accommodate the faster moving cyclists, and that's thus the wider lanes. But agree, it depends on the cyclist's ability and their announcements of being behind you.
Right.
I do walk it daily. I actually walk it to the Furman Lake. Most of the time, Jay called me out on driving it, but it is a different experience depending on your daily exposure to it and the walker and the cyclist's ability to share.
Like in city limits with more traffic, people walking
We do
to
not
and
have
from.
control of the Swamp
Right.
Rabbit even in city limits. However, we
Right.
do have a great working relationship we could ask questions on.
Okay,
So wanted to also follow up on one of the questions to Aubrey, and we do currently have underway with Alliance Engineering a sidewalk and road inventory study. That's being paid for out of our remittance that we get annually from the county towards traffic improvements. And so we should have that back here shortly within the next month or two. All of this kind of was initiated prior to the opportunity for the municipal tax relief component here, but it's really timely for us to have some really quality data in Aubrey's project to help us pick which neighborhoods we need to target first to connect to the Swamp Rabbit to continue to improve our walkability scores. But we'll have that study of every single sidewalk and every single road, whether it's city, county, or state-owned within our municipal boundaries. And that will then, again, allow us to inform our next decision-making on investment in infrastructures.
Aubrey, thank you for the hard
Yeah,
work.
fantastic job to Aubrey. And congratulations, and also an announcement that she will be joining us for the rest of the school year as a part-time employee.
Thank you.
All right,
I
I
love
think
it.
that ends our committee business. Do I motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you, Catherine. Ways and Means Committee Chair Baumgartner.
All right, call the Ways and Means Committee to order amongst the rain right now. Myself, Sherry Mara, Lisa Lane, Kelly Byers, and Catherine James are all present. I would entertain a motion to approve the July 6th Ways and Means minutes.
Motion?
I have a second on that.
Second.
Do I have any additions or changes that need to be made? All right, all in favor? All right, and I also will entertain a motion to approve the July 14 Ways and Means Committee minutes.
Motion to? Second.
Oh, thank you all. Any changes on that to do? Hearing none, then all those in favor? All right, motion, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All right, we're done.
Thank you,
There we
Grant.
go.
Old business, we have none. New business, we have none. Miscellaneous matters, our administrative update, Shannon Herman.
Mayor Almadan, I believe we've gone plenty tonight. I don't have a specific update tonight.
Great,
Gotta
thank
wait
you.
for the rain anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're gonna sit here a few minutes. I will say again, Shannon sent out a beautiful email to all the staff regarding National Night Out. That was a big deal, and I know everybody works extra and all hands on deck, and I think the community really shows up for that event, and it looked like everyone was having fun with the dunk takes, and it was a really good event, so thank you all for doing that. All right, does anyone on council have anything for the good of council?
I just want to say too about National Night Out. I saw different components of community members that I haven't seen in the past, and that was pretty exceptional. I just want to know, is there extra outreach to make sure different pockets of our community was reached?
Councilmember Chris, I
Yes.
hate that Officer Blake is not in here because he deserves a tremendous amount of celebration for really reaching out into the community. I know Chief Ford came to me a while back and wanted a heavier investment in the community policing. We've made sure to free up hours for Officer Blake to be a part of the community, but he really did the heavy lifting for the fundraising. We did have staff members throughout the building who really stepped up to make sure that certain components came together, but Officer Blake gets the vast majority of that praise there. And I think he's done a fantastic job of tying all the components of our community together.
It was beautiful.
He's a great MC too, Officer Blake. He was
For
doing
sure.
great. All right, anyone else on council have anything for the good of council? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you so much. Appreciate our guests for sticking around for a little longer meeting tonight. It was good. Yeah, just mingle, chat amongst yourselves.